This video covers importing data into Spider Impact using Zapier. Zapier is a website that you pay a subscription fee, and it connects to thousands of other web apps. Now, you can push the data from those web apps anywhere you want. One of those locations is Spider Impact. So this video is going to cover how to set up that connection and import the data. Here we are in the Import Connections section of Spider Impact in the Administration section. We've got connections for Zapier and Google Sheets, SFTP, that kind of thing. We'll add a Zapier connection. Now these instructions tell you exactly what I'm about to say, and there's a great online knowledge base article walking through this whole thing. So don't worry about this. I'll tell you everything it needs to say. Pretty much says first step is open up the My Apps page in Zapier. So we'll click that link. What we've done here is we've just opened a new browser tab here, a Zapier browser tab. Here's Spider Impact. And we're going to copy this API key. Over here in Zapier, we're in the App section, and we're going to add a connection. Search for Spider Impact. Now, you'll see three apps here. When you're actually doing it, you'll just see the one, but I'm on a test server right now, so I'm able to choose the quality assurance server. It's opening a new window, and this is where I paste that API key that I have from Spider Impact. New connection added. This is the second worst part of the process. It says new connection added, great. 404 page not found. No, the connection's there. That's a bug in Zapier. I said second worst part. There's one worst part coming here. So anyways, we will go here to My Apps. We're going to go to the custom integrations down here. Here's the connection I just added. You're only going to see one because you're going to have one connection to Spider Impact. This is a test server, so there's a whole bunch. Let's rename this as something that we're going to recognize. How about Scott's demo video connection? Okay, here it is. That we have a connection on the Zapier side of things. Let's go back on the Spider Impact side of things. I've completed those instructions. It's called the Scott's demo video connection on both ends of the tunnel. Great, we've got Scott's demo video connection here. We've got the same connection in Zapier. So now when Zapier sends Impact the data, Impact will catch it. We're good. Now let's create an import. Let's create a data set. So we're going to go to the data set section. We can create a new data set. And a lot of options, upload a file, right? Here's Zapier. Click next. Oh, sorry. Scott's, no, these are, we're gonna have a Google Analytics data set. And we have the demo connection here, but what's wrong? There's no data. That's because we're not sending it from Zapier. So let's do that. Let's go here in Zaps. We're going to create a Zap. A Zap is just a scheduled import. First is the trigger of how this thing's going to happen. Now, there's a million different ways to trigger an action. For example, if I've got customer relationship management software and someone signs up on my website and a new lead comes in, you could have an action that says every new lead, send that as a data set record to my data set. So I'm slowly building up a data set of all of my leads, right? A lot of different types of actions. We are actually going to run a schedule. We're going to do an event every day at 1 in the morning. Let's test it out. Perfect. Looking good so far. Next, what are we going to do at 1 in the morning? We're going to grab some data. Where are we going to grab it from? A lot of options. I'm going to choose Google Analytics. You can search for literally thousands of apps. So what are we going to do from Google Analytics? Let's run a report. Each of these options are going to be different based on the app you're connecting to. So these are just specific to Google Analytics. Which account? I've got a few different Google Analytics accounts. You won't have one in Zapier most likely unless you're already using Google Analytics. I'll just click connect to a new account here just to show you what it looks like. It's reaching out and talking to Google. It says, yep, I want to use my Scott O'Reilly account. Takes its time. What do you want to give it? This stuff? Great. I'm going to allow Zapier to use Google Analytics on my behalf. And now I've set up this third account. Perfect. Let's continue. So what are we going to use? These are all the spider strategies. There's only one account for my Google Analytics. Which property? Got a few different websites. We're going to use the Spider Strategies website. Which profile? It's the spiderstrategies.com one. What start date? Okay, now, if I'm running this Google Analytics report every day, the question is how much data do I want, right? I could just run it for the last 24 hours and make that one record, every single day add a new record. So if I did that, I would say, the current date to the current date, start date, end date, just send me one day's worth of data, and I'm going to append records over and over again and slowly build up this data set. Instead, I'm going to say, actually, I want to run a massive report every night. I'm going to run a report for all the data from January 1st until the current date. And so at first it's going to be like 3 years worth of data, then it's going to be 3 years and 1 day, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to run a big report, and I'm going to replace all of my data set records every single night because I'm running a full report from Google Analytics. Again, you can choose to append new records, or you can completely replace all data set records whenever you do an import. All right, what's the output format? Rows. I don't want to get into the specifics. A lot of different ways to kick out data. Rows are the way to go for Google Analytics. Metrics. Now here's the thing. What do we want to track from Google Analytics? And there are a lot of metrics. Every single piece of data is exposed in Google Analytics. How many purchases, the average price, pages per session, page views, all that kind of stuff. I have searched ahead of time and found some good metrics that I really like. Bounce rate, looks good. Page views, how many page views per day? Perfect. Average time on page, that's a great KPI. Page load time in milliseconds. Great, so those are the 4 pieces of data that I'm going to track for every single day in my report that I'm dumping out of Google Analytics. These are filters. You could say, only send me results where the country is Canada. Only send me results where the device is an iPhone, that kind of stuff. We are not getting fancy. Dimensions. We're going to have one dimension, which is just time. Very simple date. For every date, repeat over and over again for every date. Again, you can get awfully fancy in here. We are not doing that. More dimension filters, segments. We could segment this thing into a bunch of different areas. Not doing it. Not sorting, not limiting it. We're just grabbing those 4 KPIs for every day for what? 2-3 years. So let's test this out. See how it looks. Look at that beautiful data. Look at this. And we're going to talk more about this date in a second. For January 1st of 2022, we've got, here's the page load time, the average page load time, the average time on page, the number of page views, the bounce rate. Here's that data for January 2nd. Here's that data for January 3rd, right? Repeating over and over and over again. This is beautiful. Remember how I said it was super annoying that we got that 404 page error? Here is the second worst part of the site. We're not done. It's really asking you to publish this app, but we're not going to because we haven't put our data into Spider Impact yet. So we're going to click this plus button. Now it's going to say, all right, fine, what do you want to do? I want to put it into Spider Impact. Again, there's only going to be one when you see it. Okay, great. We've triggered the report every night. We're going to grab the data from Google Analytics. We're going to dump it into Spider Impact. What's the event? Push data for import. What is my account? Well, fortunately, we renamed it to something we'd recognize, Scott's Demo Video Connection. Now, again, you're only probably going to have one of these connections, so it's not going to be confusing for you. But for us, we've got a team of software developers and testers banging on this thing, so you've got to be careful what you name the connections. Okay, so looking good. We're going to push it into Scott's Demo Video Connection. Next, give it a nickname. The Demo Video Zap. And this will come in handy later. So what columns? Well, let's start grabbing the data again. So let's grab bounce rate. This is a little annoying, but we've got to grab all of the data that we want. Data bounce rate, okay. Next, make you dig for it every single time. Average time on page. Number of page views. We get page load time. It's using milliseconds. That's helpful to know. The very last is we want to get that date. But that date is buried under the dimensions data. You see there's our funky date, 2022, 0101, 0102, because that's the dimension we're repeating by. We'll call that thing date. All right, so here's our 4 KPIs as well as the date. It's going to repeat that for, these are the rows in our make-believe spreadsheet, right? It's got a column for each of these things. We're good to go. Let's see, cross our fingers, right? Okay, continue. Getting a whole bunch of data. Test and continue. Now, no more false alarms. We are actually ready to publish our Zap. So we're going to publish it, turn it on, and now it's going to run every night at 1 a.m., which is wonderful. We're good to go. Let's jump back to Spider Impact. Got a little ahead of myself. Demo video connection, come on. Oh, beautiful. There's our demo video Zap. That's why I gave it a good name. That's the nickname. It shows up whatever you call it here in Spider Impact. All right. Now it's all downhill. Bounce rate, average time on page, page views, page load time, date, all that wonderful. We're getting all that beautiful data. Google Analytics, no transformations yet, he says ominously. We're going to import data as a number. It's detecting all these numbers. Great. It's now building our data set. We have 284 days worth of records. Look at this. Average time on page, bounce rate, page load time, and page view for all these unique dates. Now it's coming in as a number. Why is date being treated as a number? Well, again, there's no commas in the raw data, but Spider Impact does a pretty darn good job of parsing dates when it has enough information. As a matter of fact, coincidentally, we've written a few support articles on this. Through 20 years of trial and error, we have found the fail-safe way of importing dates. It tries a whole bunch of ways. First, and again, this is an online knowledge base article. First, if you're in Bulgaria, it does this special check. Secondly, if you're in any other browser-based locale, it's going to do locale-specific checks for you. Your time could look like this, or this, or this, or this, based on country, right? Here's the United States, but there's literally thousands of different locales that it parses locally. If it doesn't correctly catch something at that point, then it uses these specific formats, this format and that format. It tries all of these different unique formats and all these different times and all these, then the ISO standard and all that stuff, right? It still can't import that data. And the reason why, which we've written a second support article about, is when you have a date format that just has a bunch of numbers in it, Spider Impact doesn't know what to do with those numbers. Now in this example, it's a 6-digit number, and if this Google Analytics import, it's a 8-digit number. Again, the commas wouldn't be there if it's text, But it's year first, then month, then day. But it doesn't know that, right? It could be this is the day and then the month or the year or whatever. There's a bunch of different options, and I have definitely seen data where it goes month, day, year, or year, day, month, or whatever, right? It's not always where it puts the year first. So it's ambiguous. Spider Impact doesn't know how to parse that date. How do you do it? You get fancy with regular expressions and transformations. So again, this is all online. I picked Google Analytics because it's tough. Let's go back into Spider Impact. We will edit this data set, and we're going to add a transformation. We're going to say if the date matches a regular expression, don't get scared, regular expressions aren't too bad. It really is. And there's a whole bunch of online documentation about this. We have documentation on that page I just showed you. Open parentheses, dots for however many characters. So if the year is 4 characters, close. Open, and then 2 characters for the month, dot, dot, close. Open, 2 characters for the day. So this is the regular expression describing an 8-digit date. If you wanted a date that was 6 digits, like in the other example, you just have 2 dots to start with, right? All right, then transform. What are we going to transform? Well, after the first group in the regular expression, after the first 4 characters, what are we going to do? We're going to append a dash. So now we can start previewing what's happening. It's taking this data, 2022 0101, and it's sticking a dash after the first 4 characters. Perfect. Next, we're going to do the second group in the regular expression by appending another dash. Look at that. Now it's very clear what is happening. It's a year, month, date. Very last thing. Let's take this all the way home. We're going to take the date field after we've done those 2 transformations, and we're going to convert to date. In what format? Year, month, day. Again, this is all on the online documentation. Beautiful. We've now taken this and turned it into this great date. Done. We've got a transformation. Done. Okay, now we can go back and we can edit this date field. And we can say, no, it's not a number. It's a date. And we're going to use latest date and monthly. And we're going to save it. Now when we view the records tab, we've got these great dates, and now Spider Impact knows it's a date. One more thing I want to do here. We are scheduling an import of data into Spider Impact every single night at 1 in the morning. We have not yet scheduled Spider Impact to pick up the mail. The mail's being delivered, it hasn't picked up the mail. So last thing we're going to do with a schedule import. Remember I talked about adding records or replacing all records? First of all, we are going to run every night at 2 in the morning. I'm going to replace all the records, not add records. Because again, if there's an action where I was just running a single day's worth of data, I would add records over and over and over again. Nope, I'm going to replace the records. Are you sure? Yeah. I'm sure. Okay, so now Spider Impact is going to reach out, completely overwrite all the records, apply the transformation, dump it into the software, and what are we going to get out of it? We're going to get something beautiful like this. Here we're in the chart section. I'm going to create a new chart. What data do we want to do? I'm going to do a line chart, and it's a data set. It's this new Google Analytics data set. What field do we want? Let's say average time on page. So this is the average time on page. We'll save that. What does it look like? Well, here, let's refresh that. I'm wondering if someone's messing with our QA server for this demo. All right, we're back. All right, so time on page was it's just a single data point, right? So now we have to repeat left axis by date, select, look at that. These are the time on pages. So now we can start getting actually I did this wrong. We don't want the total time on page. We want the average time on page. All right, so this is the number of milliseconds for a few months. Let's see some real data here. Let's say 32. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Or let's say 18 maybe is better. Yeah. So that it shows you our real Google Analytics website data, right? Starting in April or in January of 2022, we show all of this different time on page. And so that is how you do Zapier integrations with Spider Impact.